In this tutorial, I'm just going to show you a few more things that are going to come in handy when you start working with audio in MaximSP. I've just brought up one of the previous patches we made just to give you an example of these first two objects I'm going to explain to you. These two objects, they're called send and receive, and they're a way of remotely sending data through MaximSP. So for example, I've got a really sort of long patch cable there that's right in the way. Or what I can do to send it from the key slider to the note out in a much tidier way is do it remotely or wirelessly by using the send and receive objects. So send and receive objects need an argument, because if you have loads of send and receive objects, everything's going to get mushed together and you're not really going to know where it's going. So the idea is to call it something relevant. In this case, we're sending the velocity. So simply, we'll just call it send velocity or something for short. And we also need a matching receive object. So receive. And as you can see, the sends have an input and the receives have an output. So all you need to do is insert these in the place of your patcher cable. So we'll go from the key slider to the send. We can get rid of that now. We'll go from the receive to the note out. And that does exactly the same job as a patcher cable. I think I'm going to do the same for this number box here. So we'll go, you can write S for short. So S, pitch, send pitch, and over here we want a receive pitch again, you can put R for short. And we're just going to replace that patcher cable. And now you'll be able to see that it still works, and the pitch is getting sent to that number box remotely. Another way to keep your max patches tidy is to create what we call subpatches within your main patcher window. It will become more clear what a subpatch is in a sec, but for now I'm just going to delete everything that's connecting and making everything look messy. So we'll just get rid of these. And what I'm going to do to tidy up this patch is I'm going to put both the chord maker and the scale player in their own separate subpatches. So instead of seeing all this here, you'll just get two little separate objects and it will look a whole lot tidier. So create a new object, and the subpatch works in the same way as the send and receive. You need to give it an argument or a name. So again, make sure you call it something relevant, otherwise it's just going to get awkward. And as you can see, it's opened a new window up. This isn't a completely new window, this is totally linked to your patch that you're making. So what we'll do, we'll copy and paste. We'll start with the chord maker. In fact, we can get rid of that. So now, instead of the chord maker being on your main patcher window, it's actually within this object. So in a sense, you've created your own object. But we need to get things in and out of this object, and the subpatch has its own sort of device to make inlets and outputs on a patch. It's these two here. So obviously, inlets and outputs, you need to place these wherever you want data to come out or in from. So there we go. And now you can see as well that we've added these ins and outs. They've also come up on there in the little grey boxes like it would on a normal object. So we can get rid of that now, and instead we can literally just hook it up the same way we did before, but with a lot less mess. Okay, so now I'm going to make this scale player into its own subpatch. Just quickly, I've added the send and receive velocities back in, so the patch actually works. But yeah, with this subpatch, I've decided for usability, obviously the user is going to want to be able to control the metronome, but not have to go into its own subpatch. So that is going to stay out of the subpatch. But what's going in is all of this stuff here. So we'll get rid of that patch chord, and let's get the subpatch, we'll call it scale. And like last time, we'll copy and paste this into the subpatch. And let's get rid of that. Right, so now let's start building the ins and outs that we need for this subpatch. So we're going to need an input here from the pitch to this number box. And we're also going to need an input for the metro to talk to the cycle object. There we go. And we're also going to need 8 of these, are all going to need to go to the note out. So we're going to need 8 outputs as well. So now I've connected up all the number boxes to the outlets. We can just come out of this and have a look at how we're going to add this to our patch. So it's the same with the chord. We need the pitch going to the first inlet, but don't forget we've got the metro as well. And then all these outlets just go to the note out. Now all the outputs of that subpatch are connected to the note out. I've just added another little function, and it's going back to the last tutorial I did about switches and gates. This is one of the musical uses that the gates have. I'm using the gate to switch between the patch playing chords and going through the scale. So if you want to have a listen. That's chords, and then if you switch the gate, it will now play a scale. Oh, we'll just turn metro on.